Hey everyone, welcome to Wildlife Inspired. I'm your host, Scott Keys. Today we've got two cages for the Nikon Z9. I'll show you the differences, compare and contrast, and I'll tell you if I like one better than the other right after this. Before I get into the comparison, I just want to talk about what a cage is and why I use it. So this is what the cage is. It's just a normally piece of aluminum. It's got a bunch of little threads up at the top. On this one, it's got what we call a cold shoe, so you mount a flash in there. I'll get into this, I'll break this down specifically, and it just mounts around the outside of your camera. Most people use this for video. So if you're doing videography, you can put handles, there's all kinds of accessories, things that come off the sides, you'll see people carrying around. You can mount this to a gimbal. So there's just a lot of it, a lot of neat things that you can do with this. Now, for me as a wildlife photographer, I do a little bit of the video. I like these extra slots. I do use them. Specifically, I mount phone holders to this. I've got this little outdoor recorder, the Zoom F3, by the way. I don't really do reviews on audio equipment, but I love this one. So I can mount this onto the side. So it just gives me some options for mounting things to this if I'm doing video. I've got a Ninja recorder, a video monitor that I can mount up to the top of this. And instead of mounting all that directly, there's really only one place on a camera, and that's the hot shoe here to mount all those accessories. This gives you several options threaded into the aluminum. And then again, they do add, depending on the model, they add some of these cold shoes, they call it, but little slots where you can put accessories. So that's what it is. For me, I use it for protection as much as I use it for these accessories. Having an extra layer around this, I'm pretty tough on equipment sometimes, so just having that extra security. Doesn't add a lot of weight. You're looking at a few ounces here, so it doesn't add a ton of weight. I am going to show you the two that I'm going to be reviewing in today's video. There's not a whole lot of these cages made for the Z9. This is the one I've been using for the last year. It's made by a company called SmallRig. This one is made by a company called Tilta. I have never used any of their products before. Kind of curious about it. I'm going to show you some of the details of these, and then I'm going to tell you what's different about them. They function very, very similarly, but I'll show you what's different. I will put them on the camera, so I'll do that as well. But let's get started with the SmallRig. I'll show you some of the details of this. We'll start on the top. The thread sizes here, the smaller ones are 1/4, the larger one are 3/8. So you can see there's a few there. Here's the cold shoe. So there's a slot there. We get around to the side. A few more threads, both 3/8 and 1/4. On the bottom, there's a couple differences, so I'm going to point these out. Both of these, by the way, come with the wrench. This is the main holder. This is going to screw right into the body. On the bottom of the Z9, and this is kind of important, not all cameras have this, there's a second threaded area that you can use to lock this into the body. So that's kind of a nice feature on the SmallRig. Coming around to this side, very similar, 3 small 1/4 inch and 1 3/8. And then we're back to the top. On the front, also a couple of real small ones that you can put accessories on. They make a few accessories to help secure the mount to a lens sometimes. So that's what those holes are there for. But other than that, pretty straightforward stuff. All right, so that's the SmallRig. Now the Tilta. And again, this is a newer one. I've put it on my camera a few times, and I kind of like this one. The top, you can see it's got threads here, but they're all 1/4 inch threads. There are no 3/8 inch threads on the top. And we do have a cold shoe here. On the side, again, we've got some 3/8, or I'm sorry, some 1/4 inch threads, but we don't have any 3/8 inch. We do have an extra cold shoe on the side. So the SmallRig didn't have that. Going to the bottom, there's a lot more holes on the bottom of this one. So this one spans all the way across. The SmallRig only had a couple of holes down there. And then this is the wrench to tighten it up. On this side, a few more 1/4 inch and back to the top. So let me fasten these together. I'm going to put the SmallRig, actually, let me flip back here. I'm going to put the SmallRig body on. I can actually do this, I think, while I'm talking, because it's pretty easy to do. It includes that little wrench at the bottom. So down at the bottom here, I'm just going to pop this out. It's on there with a magnet, so you just got to kind of wedge it out. There we go. And you'll see right down in here, going to use that wrench they provide to thread that into the body. And it's about as easy as it is. I'm almost done. Now, what's nice about the SmallRig, so that's tightened up, they give me a second screw down here, and that will help secure it to the body in 2 positions. And I don't think a lot of people realize, if you own these cages, you may not realize along the top of the body, so where traditionally where you would have a little anchor here to put a strap, these little triangles is what most people have on their camera. You're going to take that out. So you're going to take out this little triangle and you're going to use the small hole in there to give it a third anchor point on the SmallRig. So your third anchor point actually is right here. I'm not going to put it in today, but there's a little small bolt that will help secure that. So that really helps tighten it up. So you see, notice right now it's moving. If I put that third point in, that will secure it. All right, so that's the SmallRig. That's what it looks like. That's the form factor, and I have no problems with it. Now, one thing about these cages, if you put a 10-pin connector on your Z9 for any reason, the Velo brand connectors, Velo, V-E-L-L-O, they tend to work, they just barely fit in here. The Nikon, it's called a ferrule, but the part that screws in here, that threads in here, is a little fatter, and it's really hard to use with a cage. So just a word of warning, if you use this SmallRig cage, you're gonna have a hard time using the 10-pin connector with Nikon branded products. All right, let me pause this video. I'm gonna grab the Tilta, I'm gonna put that on and show you the differences. So now I'm back with the Tilta. Now this has two secure connections up top. So there's a small Allen head bolt going through here that's connecting the cage to the camera, and another one on this side. Now, if you remember just a minute ago when I did the SmallRig, it only had one of those. Also on the SmallRig, it had two connections at the bottom. This only has one, so I've got the little wrench that's included here. I'm just gonna finish tightening this down. And I will tell you, in terms of what feels more secure, they're pretty close. Maybe a slight edge here because you've got only one point at the bottom, but you've got 2 points at the top. So it's really on there very securely. It doesn't wiggle at all. With the SmallRig, it's got one connection here and two at the bottom. So 1, 2, 3. This one has 1, 2, 3. So they're more spread out, kind of like a triangle. And so this side stays nice and secure. On the SmallRig one, this side does wobble just a little. Now I do want to mention, I paid for this. So this was not given to me. I try to always include that in the beginning of the video. Bought this out of pocket, contacted Tilta, said, hey, do you want to send me one of these cages? I'm kind of curious. I'd like to test it. Maybe I'll do a video on it. They never got back to me, but I went ahead and bought it anyway. So you get the most unbiased review possible today. So again, I really like that. Both cameras, both cages are very, very similar. So you're getting an Arca plate here, lots of holes to connect to. Here's the major differences. And this one's on the camera, but I'll just kind of show you real quick. Along the top, the Tilta, remember, is on the Z9. The Tilta has no 3/8 connections at the top. The SmallRig does. And that actually carries through to the sides. So the Tilta has no 3/8 connections on the side. The SmallRig has one. On the bottom, there's a couple of differences. So this is the SmallRig. See how these threads are all 1/4 inch, but they're very closely clustered. On here, they're more spread out. I'm going to show you why, for me, that's a little bit of an advantage. So you can see all of these are spread out. And then the same thing on the other side, no 3/8. But there is a second cold shoe. So for Tilta, it's got the extra cold shoe. It's got these spread out. It's got the 3 connectors spread out. Both of them have Arca plates at the bottom, so that's the same. For the SmallRig, it's got one less cold shoe, but it does have 3/8 threads on each side. It has a secondary lock down at the bottom, but it is missing the second lock at the top. Bottom line, is there much of a difference? The answer is no. I think both of these are well made. They feel very well constructed. There's one little accessory that I use. I use a belt, and it uses these tiny little lugs when I'm doing macro photography. These are by Pro Media Gear. And so because these are spread out, it gives me the ability to put this off center and slide it into my belt. So the fact that this little lug, which isn't going to be a big deal for a lot of people, but the fact that I can get it away from the middle onto the sides actually works for me. So this has been the cage that I have chosen. Price-wise, they're about the same. The SmallRig is retailed right now on B&H for $89. The Tilta retails for $99. It's currently on sale for $79, so it's actually 10 bucks cheaper. I don't think you're going to notice a huge difference. If you need the 3/8 threads on it, go with the SmallRig. If you don't, I would say maybe check out this Tilta. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this quick review today, showing you these two different cages for the Z9. Again, If you're doing video, highly recommend these. If you have a lot of accessories, if you're shooting or recording with a microphone, these can be helpful. If you want to put a handle on it, that's also helpful. Or if you just want the extra security for about, in this case, about 80, 90 bucks of having an extra layer of security of aluminum around there. If you drop it, it's going to add a little weight, add a little more security. That's your call, totally up to you. So I hope you enjoyed the quick review today. Thanks for tuning in today. And as always, I hope we can continue to find inspiration in wildlife together.